Hi, this is Udochi. I am Udochi from Wudo Publishing, and I'm gonna do a video today about the Bestseller Code. So I bought this book on Amazon. It's called the Bestseller Code. I'm just gonna do a quick review and summary of the book. It's called The Bestseller Code: Anatomy of the Blockbuster Novel, and it's a great book. It's by Jody Archer and Matthew Jockers. I learned about this book on Joanne Penn's vlog or podcast, or I don't know what to call it. It's a video, but it's a podcast. But I learned about the book there. She was interviewing some guy, and he mentioned the bestseller code. And basically, what the bestseller code is, I think it's really cool because Joanna Penn's video was about her channel is the Creative Pen, and her video was called something like machine learning and something or other. And I'm a coder, I'm a software developer, so I got really interested and listened to the video, and they mentioned this book. And so basically the reason they were mentioning machine learning and artificial intelligence and stuff like that with regard to publishing was that the people who wrote this book pretty much used all this computer techie nerdy stuff to figure out what kind of themes and words and ideas kept coming up in the best-selling novel. So the New York Times best-selling authors, as well as the greatest authors, the best-selling books in history, they were like, okay, what is it about these books? And what they did was they took this metadata from the book, usually words, and how frequently the words appeared, and how long the sentences were, and what are the emotions that were used, or the emotional words that were used, and what are the themes that were repeated in all these books. And basically the way that happens with computers is that the computer processes, and it'll like notice how many times a particular word comes up, and it'll also recognize how many times a particular word that is related to a particular idea or thought or concept is repeated. And when you can see, and the machine will pretty much create like do some data mining, which is something that you can do where it's data mining. It's like coal mining but with data. And so you just kind of extract specific information, extract particular data from the writing. So you pretty much upload the manuscript, and the computer. I'm only explaining it so that people do not get confused about the concept. But basically, for those of you who are not as technically savvy, so basically what you would do is you would upload a document of words into the computer program, and then the computer will scan the document and find particular words that come up a whole lot, and then they'll categorize those things, and it'll extract information based on that and give you some information based on the data that it reserves. So this book is just the summary of all the this book is just a summary of all the research that was done using this methodology. And I have some notes here, so I'm going to be looking down every now and then to kind of go over. I didn't really read the whole book because I was just trying to go through it really quickly. So what I ended up doing was kind of skimming for particular concepts and particular really key points, and I'm going to probably read it in depth later, but I'm just going to go over some of the things that I gathered from it. So basically what it's one of the first things that they analyzed was Daniel Steele and John Grisham. Okay, so the authors of this book analyzed works by Daniel Steele and John Grisham to see what was their formula. What was it about them that they wrote? Because these are two probably greatest selling authors of all time, and they've written hundreds of books between the two of them, and most of the majority of the books that they write tend to be on the New York Times bestsellers list. So what is it? What magic formula have they figured out? And so they analyzed those two books. They analyzed some other books on the bestsellers list, including 50 Shades of Grey and books by Nora Roberts and different types of people, so that they can kind of see what were the themes, what were the things that they could analyze using, because there's some things you can't analyze. Some things are qualitative and some things are you can analyze using computers. So they tried to analyze the things that they could analyze about these books and figure out what is it that were common. And here's what they found. They found that first of all, these authors did something really good, which was writing what they know about. Danielle Steele often wrote about home life. She's a mother, you know, she's kind of like a stay-at-home mom type of person who just writes. That's her full-time career path, and that's all she does. And then there is John Grisham, who has a law degree, I believe, and like does some other political stuff. I don't know. But basically he sticks with his genre being predominantly in having things to do with legal themes and things like that. Not saying that home life and legal themes are the topics that you need to write about to get a bestseller, but his point was that they wrote what they knew. The second point he put was that, you know, the 30% of the book only covers one or two topics. You're not going to have something that's going to be all over the place. You're not going to be talking about 5 or 6 different things in your book. You're just going to talk about one or two topics in 30% of your book. So if your book is about relationships between some family at home or divorce or something like that, you know, 30% of your book is going to be taking place in the home, or it's going to be focused on the family. Whereas, but then the other another 40% of your book, so the majority of your book will only really cover 4 topics. So the other 40% of your book will fit into those 2 plus maybe 2 more topics. So that would be a total of 4 topics and 70% of your book. But the point there is that there's a lot of new authors who try to fit so much in, and I'm guilty of it too. I have a story that I'm currently working on that's kind of like a science fiction novel, but I mean, I'm trying to put in some cultural, kind of socio-political kind of, ideas in the book, so that we can kind of, so that it can kind of shake things up and get people and be kind of a change, so my novel will be in a sense a change agent in society. But it's like but he actually says that trying to get really political and really controversial in your book is actually not a good move. He even brings up 50 Shades of Grey as, even though you read 50 Shades of Grey and you're thinking that it's predominantly about the BDSM, it's actually not. And there's actually it actually falls into the formula of Danielle Steele and John Grisham in the sense that, it only covers 1 or 2 topics. And there are some other signature pieces in the, in best-selling novels. Another piece in best-selling novels is that there's usually one signature theme in the whole novel. So when I say signature theme, I mean somebody's getting a divorce, or so let's take Harry Potter, because I keep using them as an example, and I just want to, Harry Potter, signature theme, wizardry. Okay, this boy wizard who's trying to overcome the evil, or like who's supposed to be like, the hero, who is kind of like an undeserving hero, and then he kind of has to prove himself, and at the same time defeating the most evil person ever. Signature theme, one theme, and the whole story is around that. Everything that else happens is just kind of supporting that central theme. And that's a very important quality. There's a lot of people who write books and they have like a, they have a subplot and 3 or 4 subplots and stuff like that. In actuality, majority of books that are on the bestsellers list do not have 4 or 5 subplots. You got to keep it simple. The second most topic it's saying is that should only be 4% of pages or dramatically less. Like literally, you would have 4% of your book contain another topic. Most of the book would contain that one topic. Another formula he noticed was that 40% of the book is going to be comprised of everyday moments. So just like a conversation between friends, having a cup of tea, little things like that kind of give a little bit of rest between action and very big, pivotal moments. There's like 4% of the book that's actually just everyday moments. And if you don't put those everyday moments in the book, where people are just kind of sitting down, having a chat with a friend, going over to somebody's house and having a glass of wine and unwinding about your day, if you don't have those everyday moments in your book, it can be really intense and overwhelming for your readers. Another topic, and this, my battery on my camera is about to die, but I'm going to try to finish this. Dominant topic number 1 should have a direct conflict. Oh, the realism. The book has to have a lot of realism in it in order for it to be a bestseller. That's a really key formula. So wizardry, werewolves, vampires, fantasy. You don't see a lot of fantasy books on the bestsellers list. Harry Potter is a extreme exception. It's an exception, but it's also a it's an exception for a reason. It's like, it's very the realism is there. The fantasy is a is kind of like a I don't know. It's not the central theme. It's not like, you know, when you're reading the book, you have to learn a whole new language and you have to do all this other stuff. All that stuff kind of weaves seamlessly into the realistic problem of like an orphan boy who's like an undeserving hero and blah, 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 blah. So the realism is actually there in this example, in the Harry Potter example as well. So basically the 2 big topics in your book should be, number 1, a dominant topic, and number 2, which is like 4% of the book, should be a direct conflict topic that is quite threatening to the first topic. So if the first topic is, you know, somebody's falling in love and trying to get together with some guy, the second dominant topic should be something that's a threat to that. So maybe families trying to keep the person apart, or an ex-lover, or something like that. So that's pretty much the formula. One of the top topics that are written about in bestseller books is common fears of everyone. So you know, you want to do something that's very relatable. Another thing is, do not offend or try not to be too controversial. You want to choose realism and relatability in your novels over controversy. And that's just something that, I mean, I was telling you before that I have a book idea that's like widely controversial, but I don't know, I may have to reconsider the way I write the book, not necessarily the book itself, but the way I write the book, in order to, if I want it to sell. But I also have to think about my audience, like, who's my audience? Do I really care if it's on the New York Times bestsellers list, or do I just want it to speak to the people that I want it to speak to? So that's a question you have to ask yourself. The most important thing you can write about is human closeness and connection. So moments of shared intimacy, moments of chemistry, moments of having deep bonds with people. That's extremely important in books, because it's another thing that's relatable to people, but it's also something that people crave. So 50 Shades of Grey, you see that, even though it's on the New York Times bestseller list, but it's not, it doesn't really fall into that family life, relatability, common themes, but it does play with the idea of intimacy. And then, you know, chemistry and common bonds, you see that all over Harry Potter. I'm using those 2 as examples because I could continue talking about Daniel Steele and John Grisham, but those are obvious. And then but if I point them out in books that seem like they don't fall into that category, it might be more obvious for some people. Okay, so some other things. So they pointed out some of the most common topics in bestsellers, and those are marriage, death, taxes. These are in best-selling fiction novels, by the way. Marriage, death, taxes, technologies, modern and vaguely threatening technologies, funerals, guns, doctors, work, schools, presidents, newspapers, kids, moms, and the media. Believe it or not, taxes is in there, but it goes back to the whole theme of relatability being a huge, huge plus in writing, books that sell. Another thing is that the body is a really big topic. Being in pain and a crime scene are like really big. The common place for these settings to be in is a town or city or an average home. Then within the first within the first 10 pages of such a book, you want to have that guilty pleasure moment. When he says guilty pleasure moment, it's a kind of, it's like a physical reaction to what you're reading. For example, in 50 Shades of Grey, you have moments where you're reading and your body literally reacts to it. You know, maybe not in a way that you're comfortable with sharing, but your body will literally react to the book. And so whether it's fear, tensing up, goosebumps, you know, butterflies in your stomach, whatever, but sometimes, but it's like a pleasurable, guilty, pleasurable feeling. And so those are really important things. And he does this whole graph where you oscillate in books between moments of high intensity and moments of, you know, low relaxation. So what I wrote here is that, you know, you have these regular oscillations, literally like a sinusoidal curve that goes like this, and it regularly oscillates. And there's a really close correlation between how the graph oscillates and how good the book is. So if it's a smooth curve that regularly oscillates up and down, you know, peak high to low relaxation, to peak high to low relaxation, if it goes like that regularly in the book, it's more likely to be a bestseller than if it goes high, stays high too long, and then comes down a little bit, and then they go high, and goes down a little, or like low, no rising, and then all of a sudden you have a rise and then it goes down. Like, it's better to like continuously, and I think I said that in one of my older videos about leaving cliffhangers at the end of your book. You know, you kind of shock people at the end of the chapter, and then you start again from a calm place, and then you bring it to the, you know, it's that regular pattern of like surprise to elation and relax. And then, so the regular oscillations can be between a moment of flirtatious joy, revelry, excitement, glee, love, and then the next moment, or the next dip will be like a threat to the relationship. So you're constantly going on that emotional roller coaster with the book. And then, style-wise, they were saying style-wise, you want to write like a copywriter, Google it, but just you want to write in short, snappy, you know, there's going to be, what he says is that there's a lot more commas and periods in your sentence than, so there's, you know, there's a lot more commas and periods in bestsellers than in non-bestsellers, which kind of means that, you know, the sentences are shorter and more understandable, and than you know, people who write with like run-on sentences and you know, really flowery words and things like that, or trying to, you know, be pretentious in their writing. The last 2 points are that the characters are usually female, but like 50-something% of the characters. So it's a really close margin. But that when you write a female character, the female character needs to be strong, have a strong need or want, or not strong, but the female character needs to have a strong need or want. And then their ending of their story usually ends in a much darker place. And then when there began. And that's pretty much it. Then he said that there's like a software developer contest called NanoGenmo, where, you know, writers or software developers are encouraged to write a software program that can actually write a story completely computer generated. And I would assume that he'd be interested in people using the tips in his book to build their software program, and see if it's anything that they could do. Personally, as a software developer, I know this video is not for software developers, but personally as a software developer myself, I would be suspicious if someone said that they could write a best-selling novel with a software program. I think the best thing to do would be to write a story. This is how I see it. For a person to actually write the story, and then use a software program to strategically place particular things from these tips into the already written story to make it a bestseller. But who am I to, you know, make those types of assumptions? But anyway, that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and tune in for the next video. This video was based on the book, The Bestseller Code by Anatomy of the Blockbuster. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not showing it to you. The Bestseller Code, Anatomy of the Blockbuster Novel by Jodi Archer and Matthew Jockers. Pick it up on Amazon, and I think I'll put a link in the description so you know where to get it. It'll probably be an affiliate code for Amazon Associates, so please use it if you're interested in looking at the book. And yeah, I hope you get the book, and I will see you later. Bye.